Hiya 5, I'm going to read chapter 6 of the Nowhere Emporium. Would you like a cup of tea? The man in the grey suit sat behind his desk stirring tea in a china cup. No, said Daniel. You want a small whirlpool forming the liquid and trying to sound braver than he felt. No tea, thank you. Just tell me what's going on. He had followed the man across the hallway, passing dozens of staircases to another doorway, this one with a curtain of deep red velvet. When he brushed through the curtain, Daniel had found himself back in the emporium. The man in the suit sipped at his tea, then returned his cup to a saucer on the desk. There really is no way of making what I'm about to say any easier for you to hear or comprehend, he began. So here it is, Daniel Holmes, you should be dead. At this, he stood and began to wander round the shop, his hand clasped behind his back. Allow me to explain. My name is Lucian Silva. I'm a traveller. This emporium is my means of transport. It dances through time, taking me from city to city, town to town, village to village, all over the globe. Through time, said Daniel, like Doc Brown. Mr. Silva gave him a blank look. Who? Doc Brown, said Daniel. You know, Marty McFly, Back to the Future. It's an old movie I saw at the children's home. Doc and Marty have a time machine. Mr. Silva shrugged. I do not get to the cinema much, he said. His grey eyes sparkled in the light of the fire. And my emporium is not just a time machine. He pointed to the red curtain. Beyond that curtain, beyond the many staircases we have just passed, lie my wonders. Think of the emporium as being like a tree. The whole of the staircases you just walk through, that is the trunk. Branching off it are the passageways, hundreds of them, where the wonders lie. Wherever I visit, customers are drawn to this place. For a small fee, I allow them to step through the curtain and experience what it's like to fly among the endless stars, to taste the colours of the sunset, and explore the very boundaries of imagination. I allow them to visit my wonders. Of course, I cannot allow my customers to remember what they have seen in the emporium. Not anymore. Many years ago, when the shop first opened, they remembered everything. But we soon became much too busy to cope with the crowds. Now they live with a foggy glow of happiness, perhaps even at the sense that their life has changed forever, but they cannot recall the shop. To them, it's as if it never existed. He frowned, and a sudden weight seemed to cause him to sag. When you ran away, straight onto the road, you nearly died. Daniel opened his mouth, but found his throat thick and choked. If that's true, if I nearly died, then why am I here? How did I get out alive? Because I interfered, said Silva. I saved you, Daniel. I don't know if it was the right thing to do. It was not an easy decision to make. But the day you returned to the emporium, the moment I realized you remembered being here the previous day, I knew you were special. I knew there must be a reason why you came to my attention. What sort of reason? I don't know yet, said Mr. Silva, drumming his fingers on his chin. But I'm offering you the chance of a lifetime, my boy, the chance of 100 lifetimes. Come with me. Learn about the emporium, and prove that I was right to interfere. See the world in a way nobody else can. What do you say? Daniel said nothing. He stared out of the emporium's windows. Glasgow was hidden beneath a veil of thick, swirling fog. You need persuasion, said Mr. Silva. Seeing is believing, or so they say. He strode towards the door, reaching for an elaborate metal instrument on the wall. To Daniel, it looked like a complicated cross between a clock and a compass. There were many dials and rings of numbers set within smaller rings. Mr. Silva began to manipulate the hands of the instrument. When he was satisfied, he spun and headed for the fire, scooping a handful of coal from a bucket onto the floor. He tossed the coal into the fire. There was a great roar. The flames became so bright and Daniel shielded his eyes. For the briefest moment, the flame burned a deep red and the fire exploded, sending a plume of soot billowing into the store. As Daniel coughed, the soot from his lungs, a bar of bright sunlight began to burn through the smoke. When the soot had settled, Mr. Silver stood by the door of the emporium and opened it with a flourish. "See for yourself," he said. Daniel stepped to the doorway and felt a warm breeze on his face. He had been expecting, of course, to look out onto a Glasgow street, to see shoppers bustling past, weighted down by their bags. But this is not what he saw. He edged out of the door onto a wide walkway. The air was warm, the sky awash with deep red and purples. Beyond the walkway, where a road should surely have been, there was a canal lined with tall, narrow buildings, all columns and spires and colourful shutters. "What happened to Glasgow?" Daniel said. And he dug back into the emporium. Mr. Silver shut the door and made sure the sign in the window read closed. "We left," he said, as though this was the most regular occurrence in the world. "That's Venice. We are in Venice now." He glanced at instruments on the wall. "The year is 1854. July, I believe." Daniel craned his neck to get a better view from the window. He wiped the glass, which was foggy, from his breath. He tried to find some words. "It's impossible." "Yet here we are," said Silver. Daniel felt the need to sit down. "So we're just, this is really..." "Indeed," said Silver. "But, I mean, how? Daniel's eyes widened. "It's magic, isn't it? It has to be. How else can we have just come from a caravan in a meadow that's inside a room? There's no other way for all of this to be real, to be happening." Mr. Silver smiled. "One thing at a time, Mr. Holmes. One thing at a time." "And you want me to come with you? All around the world?" A pause. Daniel narrowed his eyes. "What's the catch?" "The catch, Daniel Holmes, is that you will work to earn your place here. What I'm offering is not a holiday. It's an opportunity, a challenge. You must show me I was correct to bring you here, that you were, as I suspect, special. If you succeed in that, then the emporium will become your home." "And what happens if I don't come up to scratch?" said Daniel. "You sack me? Leave me somewhere halfway round the world 100 years before I was born?" "I will do no such thing," said Mr. Silver. "If you do not belong in the emporium, you will simply be returned to your own time, your old life." He offered a hand. "So, do we have a bargain?" Daniel organised the facts in his mind. He was an orphan living a miserable life. He didn't have any friends. A gang of bullies had made it their mission to ensure his life was as uncomfortable as possible. He was lost. And now he'd been invited to escape all of that and travel through time. And now he'd been invited to escape all of that and travel through time in a magical shop with a man he suspected was either a genius or a lunatic, or maybe both. He had the opportunity to be someone else, even if it was just for a while. And if he was someone else, maybe he wouldn't feel so alone. What do you think he'll do? "I'll do it," he said. "See you next time, you find."